Now I want to chat about different sketching techniques. You get two groups of sketching techniques. You get loose sketching techniques and you get detail sketching techniques. Which one you're going to use is going to depend on two things. The first one is, why are you drawing? Are you drawing just to practice your eye-hand coordination skills? Then you just need to draw a few lines, because all you're trying to do is get the outline and the proportion and angles and those things correct. You're not looking for any details and stuff, so it's pointless using any detail techniques. If you just planning a drawing, then maybe, doing any kind of detail will also often be maybe pointless. Or you can add just some detail into it, just enough, like this one over here would be a kind of good example of that. If you're planning a drawing, you've now done your basic sketch, and then you're just adding in a few details to get to where like the highlights and the shadows and those things are. And then again, let's say you're on holiday and you're trying to just capture the scene that you see. So sometimes you've only got 30 seconds to quickly capture that scene. Then literally just a few lines is all you've got time to do. So you can only use quick, loose techniques then. But if you've got a little bit more time, then you can get to this stage and then you can gradually build it up a bit further. Right, so today we're going to really look a lot more into those loose techniques. So the first loose technique that you get is called a notan. So what a notan is literally just a black and white sketch. So we will be doing some notan sketches later, then that will sink in and you'll see what it means. All you're trying to do is find where's your lights and where's your darks, and usually you're using that to test compositions and stuff to see whether you've got good balance in your painting or your drawing. So the way it works is a light item and a dark item have weight. The darker it is, the more weight it's got. So what you're usually looking for is a bit of balance between the lights and the darks. So for example, let's say you've got, there's your drawing paper over there and you're looking to do a scene. If it's got lots of, let's say, darks over here, and maybe it's got another dark patch over here. So now all you're doing is looking at the lights and the darks, those objects and the shapes and stuff. If you've got something like that, can you see it looks quite off-center? It feels like this image is hanging over this way because there's so many random dark things over there. So what you'd want to do is look for something that you can add maybe to the drawing. Maybe a tree or something on this side over here to add balance. So that's where a notan is going to help you. And you can see just by doing this, a notan is super quick. There's no detail, there's no nothing. But they're fabulous for doing little tests and planning. Great in the planning stage. Okay, then the next one is called a tonal sketch. So what you've done there is you've basically just drawn out the basic shape very quickly, and you can see it just thumbnail size. And then instead of trying to do all sorts of shadings and stuff, all you've done is looked at where's your lights, your midtones, and your darks. Can you see? Dark, midtones, and lights. And you've just quickly scribbled them in, literally scribbled. And that's a nice way for you to get your head around, especially a complex drawing. Even like this horse, I mean, it is quite complex if you start looking at all the details and stuff. Let's bring that guy back into view. You get, there's a vein and here's all sorts of little rib defects and so on. And hair details, and there by the eye there's all sorts of little wrinkles and whatnot. And it's easy to get yourself stuck looking at all those details. So doing just a quick little tonal sketch like that forces you to reduce the drawing down to its absolute basics. And that's where the tonal sketch helps you. It helps you get your head around what you're about to draw. Then one step further is a quick sketch. So now you've basically, you've maybe done a tonal sketch, and now you just continue and you build onto that. So now you've started adding a bit more detail into it. All right, so another loose sketching technique, and this is one that we're also going to practice today, is, let's get an example of that, is using shapes and angles. Maybe I can do just a little sample first. Using shapes and angles to plot out or sketch out whatever you're planning to draw. So, for example, with the horse, you've got a bit of a triangle happening there by the neck, and you've got also another triangle happening by the face, and here on this area you've got a bit of a circle over there, and then you go and take a look, how does this guy differ from your standard shapes? So what you usually do is you reduce your objects down to circles, squares, and triangles. Anybody can draw a circle, anybody can draw a square, and anybody can draw a triangle. So by reducing your scene down to these basic shapes and variations of it, you know, like rectangles and ovals and longer skinny triangles and stuff, or trapeziums, you know, by reducing it down to basic little shapes that are easy to draw, you can quickly sketch out what you want, and then from there on you go ahead and refine the drawing. And then as far as using angles are concerned, you'd say, okay, I've got the neck at this angle, the head's at that angle, the tip of the face is at that angle, the ears are at this angle, and so on. That little bottom piece is at that angle, the bottom of the mouth is that angle, and so you continue, and before you know it, you've got your horse sketched out. Alrighty, so when are you going to use these loose sketching techniques? So we've just chatted about the notan, your tonal value sketch, using your shapes and angles to sketch out what you want. You're going to use that when you're experimenting with different compositions, when you're starting the details of a drawing, in other words, getting those basic outlines and stuff in, and of course when you're just practicing your eye-hand coordination. That's when you're going to use those kind of things. But then you can take it further and start adding detail to it. So the first detail you've got is line weight. Yeah, I think I'll go back to here for a second. So let's say we've now sketched out that horse. So line weight works like this. You've got the thicker the line and the thinner the line gives you different weights. There's a lightweight line, and that's a heavyweight line. And the same would happen with a thin line is lightweight, and a thicker line has got a heavier weight. So when you first start with your loose detail work, you're working with light and thin lines, because it's sort of a planning stage, right? But then to get more detail, now you start adding a bit more weight to these guys. So now you're more happy and you're more certain of the actual the positions. So now you can go ahead and you can sort of lock in the different shapes and stuff that you've been plotting out using your loose lines, you know. So that line weight over there sort of finalizes it, and you can, more often than not, you just leave those initial sketch lines in when you're doing sketches. You don't erase them, you just leave them. You just add that extra line weight to finalize what you were actually drawing. So that's the one. And the other one is obviously shadings. So just using shadings to sketch in what you want. Um, maybe let's go over to another drawing. Let's go over to this guy over here. He's actually got pretty much a bit of everything in him. Let's go wider there to get that whole drawing in. Alright, so here you've got shadings. Can you see? So you've got overlapping strokes which are giving you the image that you need, and even to an extent the mountains, the hills in the back here have been added. You've got a bit of shading here to finalize these poles and sticks. Can you see the line weight added to the outside? Then you've got cross-hatching. I don't have cross-hatching over there, but we do have cross-hatching, say, over here. So this is when you've got lines that you've overlapping, like this, close together for light areas, further apart for light areas, closer for darker areas, or cross-hatching to go to get even more variety in your tonal values and textures as well. And then another technique is scumbling. So scumbling is literally just scribbles. So I've used scumbling in that tree over there. Can you see it's just scribbles? So let's put maybe that guy down over there. So this is scumbling. It's just wiggles and squiggles. That's all you've got. Alright, so when are you going to use shading and hatching and line weight and stuff to add detail to your sketch? You're going to do that when you're happy with your composition that you've done, and you want to just start finalizing or defining things a bit better. That's when you're going to use these more detailed techniques.